Good evening. Welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. The Nigerian Army on Tuesday announced it has recaptured the town of Gamburo Ngala, Borno State, northeast Nigeria, from Boko Haram terrorists. Army spokesperson Colonel Sani Usman said the troops are currently conducting clearing and mopping up patrols. This latest development comes days after President Muhammadu Buhari gave service chiefs a 3-month deadline to tackle insurgency in the country. As part of efforts to adequately tackle the insurgency situation in Nigeria's volatile northeast region, the Nigeria Air Force has announced the full deployment of its aircraft. Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, the country's Chief of Air Staff, who announced the deployment, said the current security challenges in Nigeria heavily relied on air power and that discussions were ongoing with the presidency to ensure the Air Force was battle-ready. He urged senior officers of the force to ensure that integrity, excellence and service delivery were promised to eliminate mediocrity and corruption in the Air Force. According to him, the current spate of terrorism in the Northeast had led to the self-audit of the preparedness of the Air Force to defend the nation. Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Gabriel Olunishakin, has unveiled his vision for the armed forces of Nigeria. The vision, which is, quote, to ensure a well-motivated, trained and equipped armed forces that is responsive to national security commitments, end of quote, was unveiled in a ceremony at the conference hall of the Defense Headquarters. The service chiefs also commended the field commanders and the troops in the Northeast for maintaining the momentum in their efforts to rout out terrorists from Nigeria's soul. General Olunishakin met with principal staff officers and senior officers of the Defense Headquarters. He said all hands must be on deck to ensure that the presidential directive of ending terrorism in 3 months is achieved. Nigeria's immediate past National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki on Tuesday was formally charged with illegal possession of firearms. He was, however, granted bail based on self-recognition shortly after he pleaded not guilty to the 1-count charge of unlawful possession of several assault rifles and ammunition without license, which violates Nigeria's Firearms Act. Justice Adeni Ademola of a federal high court in Abuja, who presided over the case, ordered that Dasuki's traveling documents, which might be currently in the custody of the government agency, be retrieved and deposited with the court. The judge, after delivering his ruling on the bail application, adjourned till October 26 and 27 for the trial. Edo State Governor Adams Oshomole has denied accusations describing President Muhammadu Buhari's recent appointment as one-sided and tribalist. According to the Edo State Governor, the appointments were based on merit and not political sentiment or ethnic consideration, as some tribal jingoists who have made us to believe. This is according to him. He also commended President Buhari over the recent appointments. Oshomole said the nation, which is in a bad shape, requires the best, seasoned and incorruptible hands to confront and solve problems. President Buhari's recent appointments have received mixed feelings from some Nigerians who have described them as one-sided and pro-North. Abubakar Audu has emerged as the candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the Kogi State governorship election slated for November 21st. Audu, who was a former governor of Kogi, was declared winner after polling 1,109 votes to beat his closest rival, Yahaya Bello, who scored just 703 votes. Kadu State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, who was the chairman of the committee that conducted Saturday's primaries, commended the aspirants for their maturity and commitment to the ideals of the party.
With these results, and with the powers vested in me by the National Executive Committee of the All Progressives Congress, I hereby declare Prince Abubakar Audu with 1,109 votes, having scored the highest number of votes in the election, as the gubernatorial candidate of the APC in Kogi State.
As far as they are concerned, they've taken it as one of those things in sports. You lose, and at times you win. And as far as we are concerned in this contest, no loser, no winner. No victor, no vanquish. That's why I quickly embraced and interacted with this young, dynamic man, Surplus, that's the popular name, but the actual name is Yaya Bello. He impressed me a lot. I think with him we can go and rest after the next 4 years in the office. You have done extremely well. It goes a long way to show that the age of Methuselah has nothing to do with Solomon's wisdom. So I'm very proud of you. I have also reached out to other contestants that we should work in harmony. We should work as one indivisible body because we have a very serious task ahead of us.
A civil society group has called for the dissolution of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) following what it calls the Commission's inability to enforce the existing laws on electoral offenders. The group's Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center (CISLAC) held a press conference in Abuja where they reviewed issues of electoral violence in the 2015 elections.
2015, 2007, 2011, 2003 electoral offenders are not tried. The 2019 and other elections, the impunity that we see will be far greater because those who have done it in the past have gone scot-free. So it's to thank CISLAC to say, look, the core of this is that if you had the situation that you had in Rivers, you had people being beheaded for no offense, because you relate it, they say, oh, there was a family crisis. Why did you wait until election to resolve your family crisis? Oh, that was that. How are you sure that the person that was killed because of election? The person was killed during the election. And the people who killed them are known. In other climes, the reason, the difference between Nigeria and any other country is not because criminality doesn't run in those environments. It is because of the effectiveness of law and order. If you commit crime, you will pay. That consciousness that you are going to pay for the crime that you have committed is the deterrent. Impunity is when people know that if they use violence to get political power, that they will use the violence of money as well to sustain themselves there.
We thought it is important that we review the last 2015 general election and the violence that took place before, during and after the election. Yes, it is true generally the election was peaceful, but we know there were a lot of violence that took place in many parts of the country. And given the fact that already we have 2 elections scheduled to take place at the end of the year in Kogi and Bayelsa, and already tensions, and crises are already, erupting. It is important to look back and see how we can, prevent, the occurrence of those kind of, incidents of violence that took place in the last election. This is important because if we don't deal with the issue of electoral violence, we are going to encourage impunity. We are going to encourage, the perpetrators of this kind of violence to continue to do what they are doing. And we know that obviously the whole world is watching us, and the success story that we have today of having an election, if we did not, build on the success, the positive side of it, and also try to avoid the repeat of the negative aspect of it, we would come back to the same yesterday of impunity and electoral violence. So we don't want that kind of situation to happen to Nigeria again.
The National Identity Management Commission has moved the stipulated date for the mandatory use of the National Identification Number to January 9, 2016. NIMC had earlier said the use of the National Identification Number would commence from September 1, 2015 before the latest change. The extension of the September date follows the recent directive by President Muhammadu Buhari that all ministries, departments and agencies should harmonize their biometric data. According to NIMC, at the expiration of the deadline, all transactions by all relevant government institutions involving the identification of individuals or bodies will be carried out with the number. President Muhammadu Buhari says he wants Nigeria to continue efforts to win certification as a polio-free country by 2017. This comes after the country recorded its last case in July last year. He urged all Nigerians to join hands with the federal government to achieve the objective. Speaking at a meeting of state governors in Abuja late Monday, President Buhari said to become permanently polio-free, Nigeria must build on its achievement of being polio-free for 12 months. He urged the governors to diligently supervise the polio eradication programs in their respective states and ensure resources were provided and efficiently utilized. Nigeria hopes it would soon be taken off the list of endemic countries as the first step to being declared free of the disease. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, look at more news stories. Don't go away.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching the Funny White Man Show, which is the biggest, the brightest, and the most entertaining show in Africa.
Funny white man, funny white man, funny white man, but this way you talk, it's too much. Give me 5,000 man, that's you. It's too much. So you get it like, when she move along the street, yeah, me should like there, I'm going girl, you know, my own people, actually. Yeah, fine, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I'm one of those very few, I'm forever taking it personal. I will listen 160 million Nigerians are corrupt. How? My brother, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, but it's a growth, and this is the time to build business and know the pitfalls and know what to do and what not to do. But there are months where you get business and months.
You know how we do, how we train them. We did the way you did.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching Trending Matters on the Funny White Man Show. Of course, we will bring you trending issues just to entertain and tickle your fancy.
Welcome back. This is TV360 News Now. To business stories now. Akinwumi Adesina has officially been sworn in as the new president of the African Development Bank. The inauguration ceremony took place on Tuesday in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. He becomes the 8th president of the African Development Bank. Among those present for the ceremony were Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, former Minister of Finance Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Aliko Dangote, and the former governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi. Additional, who was Nigeria's former Minister of Agriculture, says the African Development Bank will focus on tackling Africa's power shortages to try to unlock its economic potential in the coming years. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) says the country's Warri refinery is yet to be reopened after last week's temporary closure due to crude oil being loaded into the plant. NNPC spokesman Ohi Alegbe said the refinery will only restart when it had enough crude to keep it going for at least 25 days. He added that crude was being supplied to the refinery in batches carried by marine vessels because most of the pipelines supplying it had been compromised by vandalism. Oil sales account for around 70% of government revenue in Nigeria, which imports most of the fuel used. NNPC said the decision to shut down Warri refinery was taken because there was insufficient crude in the system, adding that it's expected to resume very soon. Oil prices fell sharply on Tuesday after official data showed China's giant manufacturing sector contracted at its fastest pace in 3 years. Benchmark Brent crude dropped to $2.45 to a low of $51.70 a barrel before bouncing to trade around $53.10 a barrel, while U.S. crude was down 75 cents at $48.45 a barrel. Forecasters say oil producers in OPEC countries are pumping 2 to 3 million barrels per day more than required, and this has left the global market heavily oversupplied. The South African National Assembly on Tuesday debated a motion aimed at preparing the way to impeach President Jacob Zuma. The motion was presented last month by Democratic Alliance leader Mumuse Mayameni. The lawmakers say Zuma violated his presidential oath to uphold the constitution of the country and the country's laws by allowing Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir to leave the country in June, an action which has directly contravened a court order that called for his arrest. Al-Bashir is wanted by the International Criminal Court ICC for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, the ANC says it won't back the motion to impeach President Zuma. Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha says the country has arrested a second foreign suspect in connection with the deadly bombing at a Bangkok shrine in August. Chan-o-cha said the male suspect was arrested in the east of Bangkok on the border with Cambodia. It is unclear whether he is one of the men seen on the security footage leaving a backpack at the crowded shrine shortly before the bombing on the 17th of August. Over 20 people were killed and 100 people were injured in the bomb attack. To sports stories now, the Nigerian Football Federation (NFF) has confirmed that the Super Eagles will depart Nigeria on Thursday, September 3rd for the 2017 AFCON qualifier in Tanzania. The Nigerian delegation will be made up of 23 players. This is the first time Nigeria and Tanzania will be meeting each other at the senior level since December 1980. The match will be played on Saturday, September 5th, is Sunday Olise's first game since he became Super Eagles coach in July this year. English club West Ham has confirmed the loan signing of Nigerian international Victor Moses from Premier League champions Chelsea. Moses, however, pledged his support to his long-term future to Chelsea, signing a new 4-year deal contract at Stamford Bridge before moving to West Ham. He becomes the Hammers' second deadline day purchase following the arrival of midfielder Alex Song from Barcelona, also on a season-long loan. Moses, who joined Chelsea in 2012, has gone on loan in the past 3 seasons. We've come to the end of news now. We thank you very much for joining us. I am Thelma Okoro.